Hello, everybody. This is Dr. Dan Cardolicchio. Want to welcome you to Destination Health Podcast, where we say we want to motivate, we want to educate, and we want to inspire. We are going to inspire today. Very special guest, Naomi Damask. Naomi, thank you for coming on to the podcast.
Dan, thank you so much for having me. I'm excited. I'm excited to be here. I'm excited to talk to you and in your audience. This is going to be a good time.
This is going to be a good time. And again, we're going to definitely motivate, educate, and we're going to inspire. And I'm going to read off Naomi's bio here. So give me a second. And a truly amazing person. We just had a great conversation before we came on to the podcast. So Naomi, certified wellness consultant, wellness entrepreneur in epigenetic, biohacking, and nutrigenomics sector. Nutrigenomics, it's like, can you say that 10 times fast? All right. She is a breast cancer thriver. I love that. Not survivor, but thriver. She has a mission to educate on what is wellness and hoping everyone thrives in life. Founder of the Vitamin C Party, a party that everyone needs to attend, focuses on some of the most important aspects of wellness: community, connection, conversation, which is what we did before we came on. Naomi, it is a pleasure to have you on. Thank you.
Dan, I'm so excited to be able to have conversations with you because you and I have had some great ones.
That's right.
Before this and as well as before. And I think I'm here to inspire people, especially people of women that think breast cancer is going to come knocking on their door or not knocking on their door. So
Right.
Let's get started.
Okay, so let's go back. It was in 2011, right? You were diagnosed.
Yes.
You were 36 years old. Take us back to that time. Let's discuss.
So it was a very interesting time. The week before I was diagnosed, Dan, my husband actually accepted a job to move us from the city of Chicago to Atlanta. And the next week I got my diagnosis. And the whole thing is, I tell people all the time, there's a reason why we need to be doing self-exams. I had done a self-exam, I had found a lump. I went in to see my OB and she was like, you know what, you're young, it's probably nothing. But you know, you have that gut feeling. And when I went to go do a mammogram, I'm a very chatty Kathy. I asked the tech person, I was like, so how long have you been doing this? And she's like, 30 some years. She scanned me, came back into the room and said, I need to run some additional scans. And then when the doctor came in to see me, we did an ultrasound. And during that ultrasound, she kept asking me, can you point to your lump? And when I kept pointing, and the third time I said, what is going on? And she said, well, you have two. And they're not fluid filled, so we know they're not cyst. Mm-hmm. And that's when my heart just sunk. And I was like, here we go.
Right.
Sign up. And they did a biopsy, came back, and sure enough, both of them were cancer, both invasive, two different types. And right then and there, I decided I was going to take control of my health. Mm-hmm. And I was going to start to do my own research and not just let the doctors tell me what I needed to do. Like, I wanted to reach out to every person I could. And that's what I did. I was heavily involved in the Junior League of Chicago. I reached out to all my contacts. That's why I'm really big about community and connection. And I said, I need to talk to people. I need to know what they went through, what were their treatments, and did my own due diligence, which was the best thing for myself. And that's why I'm so passionate about helping so many other women that have entered this journey.
Mm-hmm. I love this. I understand now why you say you are a breast cancer thriver, because your mission in life and you pivoted and you decided this is not going to define who you are and what's going to happen to you for the rest of your life. You wanted to change that, and you wanted to make sure that you wanted to survive, not only survive, but thrive. So what happened from there? What type of treatments did you have?
So I actually did not want to go the traditional route of chemo. Mm-hmm. But this was, almost 9 years ago. And at the time, social media wasn't where it is today. And I started doing research. I came across a lot of things. There was actually a place in Chicago called the Block Center that I really wanted to go to. Is more of a Eastern versus Western philosophy there. Mm-hmm. And my husband was like, no way, no how. Like, everyone else was like, no, you're doing chemo. Right. that's why it's there. You need to do this. You have 2 tumors. Like, let's not mess around. You have 2 little kids. And so I did my research and I decided that I was like, fine, I'll do chemotherapy, but I'm going to negotiate how many rounds I'm going to do. And so I did the bare minimum of 4 rounds. And I ended up doing a bilateral mastectomy with reconstruction later on. And that is another whole story because I had implants put in and I recently just explanted my implants because of other health issues. And this is where I go back to people and say, listen, you got to stick to your grounds. I had really wanted to go flat, Dan, and the doctors kept telling me, you won't be happy. You won't be happy. You're 30, you're a woman, you know. And that's where I tell people, no, you got to do what's best for you, not what people think is best for you. And so I ended up doing chemotherapy. And alongside of that, I did a lot of, alternative things. I did acupuncture, I did chiropractor, I did massage, I did heavy supplementation as well. And I just was thirsty for knowledge. I literally started to follow people and educate myself in regards to what really is cancer. And then I started looking back at my own history. And that's what I found was so interesting, is really learning about our bodies and our cells. And I think that's what's so important and so fascinating, that our bodies are meant to heal. They really are.
I find this fascinating because I was talking to a colleague this week and we were discussing what happens when you go see a physician. Everybody has a professional objective and that's fine, but you have to educate yourself and you have to make sure that that's best for you. Because something as simple in my chiro life, 20 years ago, if I had a patient that was in their 50s and they said they had low back pain, I would say, well, that's normal because you're getting older now, right? You're getting older. So that's normal. And it's not normal. It's not normal. And I think this is what you're saying, is that you didn't want to accept the norm. You wanted to figure out what was best for you. Tell me, what was your supplementation? What was your program? What was your protocol?
So at the time, I really started to look at how could I boost my immune system. And that was just the beginning part of it for me. I really started to understand in regards to my past history. So I've had Epstein-Barr virus, mono, as high school. So I started looking at everything and really digesting about my body was breaking down way back in high school. I would have horrific periods. And yet their solution for me, Dan, back then was like, finally, they're like, just, go on birth control.
Right.
And then, so I started piecing things together. And, then after I had my second baby, I was having severe migraines. And I went to go see this one doctor, and he just basically said, here's some meds. And that's when I was like, I'm not a med person. I've had both my girls totally natural. I just don't do well. And so I really started to understand the immune system. So I started doing a lot of herbs, eating better, cleaning up my diet. I was a marathon runner. I've always been an athlete. And so that's where, people say, oh, exercise. Yes, exercise is super important, but it's also what else are we doing? And so I started to get into meditation. I started to really addressing the emotional side of health, which I think is so overlooked. And I think it's probably one of the most important things, Dan. So it wasn't just even my supplementation that way, but it was also understanding about sleep and how that is key for our bodies and how our bodies really need to rest and digest, and how, we have to be getting rid of our, the extra estrogens in our body, because I was ER positive, and their solution was just put me on tamoxifen. Well, once again, tamoxifen didn't agree with me. And after seeing multiple oncologists, the one finally realized, she's like, everything you're doing for yourself naturally, she was off the records, is better than taking tamoxifen, because she knew that I was taking like a NRF2 activator. She knew that I was doing all these things in regards to really working with my immune system. And I think that's what's so important. Mushrooms are great. Like, I don't think people realize that food could be our medicine.
You have just hit on 1,000 questions that I can ask you right now. We could probably talk for the rest of the weekend, because this is what I do in my office. And just to back up, viral infections can lead to cancers. Birth control pills throws off your hormones. That's just what it does. Estrogen dominance, can create different types of healthcare concerns for females, males, as time goes on. And all of this, and I was going to ask you about your past, but you just went right into it, and that's great, because that is exactly what it is. So we have genetics that we have genetics, where it's hard, and that's the color of my eyes, brown, right? My hair, even though it's salty today, has been black, brown. Those are things. However, in genetics, you can manipulate the genetics, and it doesn't have to express itself by doing the right thing, quote, thing, unquote. All right. So cancers are not always genetic. So let's talk about that. What are your thoughts on that? Because
actually,
go ahead.
Yeah, the whole thing. I was just on a podcast earlier this week, and I explained to the person that you can look this up as well. 95% of most cancers are not genetic. It is linked to environment and lifestyles. And I'm like, this is coming directly from NIH. And it is. We think about our lifestyles and our environment. That is huge. And for myself, yes. Is there probably a genetic component? I'm not BRCA 1 or 2.
That was my question, right?
Everyone on my father's side has had prostate cancer. My cousin, she died. There was a huge age gap between the two of us. She died in her 40s of breast cancer. But this was way back when, before they did testing and everything. So do I think that there is some genetics for me? Absolutely. But guess what? That's why nutrigenomics and biohacking and epigenetics is so fascinating. Is we can either upregulate these survival genes. It's like a light switch. We can turn them on or turn them off. And that's why I'm so passionate about this growing sector of wellness, because we have the ability to silence or quiet those genes or turn them on. And well, what was I doing? I was definitely fueling my own genes. I mean,
your whole lifestyle was bringing you to that point with Epstein-Barr and birth control pills, estrogen dominance, different types of medications. Because listen, some of the people I've had on my podcast, and they're very passionate, as equally as you and I are, and they're like, I don't want to give the medications right away. I want to look at your lifestyle right away, and I want to take a look at that. I want to see what you're eating, because what you're eating is going to, it's going to manifest, at some point in time. Listen, I had a heart attack when I was 37 years old. Fast food, 3 offices, very successful, the whole, all of that stuff. But that was on me. I had to change. That's how I got into this. So your diet, what was your diet like? Were you eating,
I really ate, people would say I was eating healthy, and I was for the most part. But, one thing that I did love was I loved my cocktails back in the day. We would drink a ton of wine. We were very social, my husband and I. And, for the longest time, because I lived, my husband and I would throw amazing parties, dinner parties. I always thought there was only 2 glasses to a bottle of wine, because it was known as the rye pour in our house. Like, you came over, you're not just getting this, you're having a glass of wine. We love red wine. But like learning about what this does in our body. And then I grew up in, the era of the fat-free. And so what did I always do is I was eating fat-free this, fat-free that. Well, that is turning into sugar, insulin, spiking my insulin, like learning about those things. I'm like, oh my word, like I was fueling my body, especially when I was pregnant with my first child. I worked a corporate job. at the time. And you know what was I doing? Just putting back Skittles and Starburst, because to me, I was like, oh, that, it's fat free. It was all these things, and I was running. So I was like, I'm fine. I'm running, not thinking about it. And other than that, I mean, we're eating salads, we're doing those things. But when I got diagnosed, Dan, I went hardcore and dug in. But at the same time, here's the thing is, I then had to learn the balance, because at first, I went crazy, and I went to the.
That's a normal reaction, though. That is a normal reaction, because if you have a health care, you do have a tendency going from here all the way over here.
Oh, yeah.
It's just a normal reaction.
But then what I learned, and it was an amazing acupuncturist that I saw in Georgia. She had said, you're doing more harm than good, because you are now food shaming yourself and putting more stress. And that's the whole thing. People, it's like, it was a new stress that I was putting on my life, that I would say, oh my word, I can never eat this cookie again because it's sugar. It's going to fuel my cancer, and my cancer is going to come back. And that it would play mind games with myself versus now I'm like, that's not part of my lifestyle. And that's where people will ask me all the time, do you have a certain diet? And I'm like, no, I have a lifestyle.
Right.
And I think that's really important. And I brought something out to show you today in regards to fast food.
Go for it.
So this has been in my butler pantry.
For how long?
I'm going on 5 years. Still looks the exact same. No mold.
We won't mention where it's from.
Yes.
We won't mention where it's from, but yes. You know what? I mean, lifestyle, that's where all of this is going. We're looking at lifestyle medicine. We're looking at different types of lab testing right now. The technology is much different today with food sensitivity testing, leaky gut testing. I habitually recommend these tests, with the food sensitivity. Namely, I want to know what you should be eating, what you should be avoiding, because I'm working with your metabolism, with your biochemistry, and that's extremely important. Staying away from those types of foods that you just showed me, because I read a study in Mayo Proceedings Clinic in November 2019. A lot of what you just showed, it's available and affordable, it's very palatable, and it's all over the place, so that you can purchase this. And this is going to play havoc at some point in time with your biochemistry. And if you have the genetic predisposition for it, it gets worse, right? And if you're up-regulating those other genes to express different types of, different types of chronic lifestyle disease processes, it becomes important now to take a look at your lifestyle. Sleep, what you said before. I had a sleep doctor on not too long ago, retired former U.S. Navy SEAL, and he saw metabolic syndrome, Naomi, in young Navy SEALs that are allegedly in incredible physical and mental shape, but now they're exhibiting some symptoms of metabolic syndrome. And there's an article that was done. I have it here. I don't know if you've read it, and I'm going to send it to you. Cancer as a metabolic disease.
Ooh, I'd love to see that.
This is something I have it right here, and I'm going to say cancer as a metabolic disease. It was written in it was an article in 2010, and there's a book about it. I want to talk about sleep, because restful restorative sleep is what I always ask patients. Back in the day when you were in corporate, you probably weren't getting a lot of sleep, right? Diet's okay, taking medication, now sleep, right? Was your sleep off during this time?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I look back, I'd fall asleep with the TV on, which, it's disrupting your circadian rhythm, especially now more than ever, Dan, is we're all on our devices, and then you think about like the Kindle came out and people are looking at that blue screen reading. So they're still thinking, oh, I'm reading before bed. Well, that, like our natural hormones in our body, there's a reason why we need to go back. And sleep wise, I was, especially being a mom, sleep deprived. And, when I worked corporate, I also had a side gig, that wasn't even a term back then, but I designed handbags and was doing fun things.
Mhm.
And so I was like always doing this. And I was very social, and I definitely wasn't sleeping enough. I know I look at after college, everyone's like, you look great. And I was like, yeah, but I was killing it in the advertising world. I was working part-time, running marathons. I was
Right.
like, but I was like on a high, but it wasn't getting the proper sleep. I mean, I'd go to waitress at night, get up in the morning, get to my
Mhm.
ad job, and then get off early to go run 10 miles. Like, that's not normal.
Yeah, your body's beginning to break down because there's too
Yeah.
many, negative stressors. And I think it important, and for all of our listeners here, that just because you're exercising doesn't mean you're healthy, right?
Oh, absolutely. Some of the people that I know are probably the most unhealthy people because of also the emotions that are attached to that.
So,
Because a lot of times
right,
people are exercising not for the health benefits. It's also because they're exercising because they don't love themselves, Dan.
right,
They don't love their body.
right. And that's something that is a mental emotional. We're going to get into that in a second because, when I teach, I teach at a graduate level at University of Bridgeport at the Nutrition Institute, and you can't out exercise a bad diet, right? You can't
Mhm.
out supplement a bad diet. You can't. There's just no way that that's going to happen. It's got to be that total lifestyle change, and let's talk about that. And one of the talking points that we want to discuss is that more to wellness, and you touched upon it before. I want to delve into it more because I think it's important. There's more to wellness than just exercise and diet. So, what's part of your daily ritual right now for wellness besides the exercise and the diet?
So for me, it's really like having more morning routines. I think is really important. For
Mhm.
me, it's journaling. I am all about affirmations. I'm big about when I do my dry brushing or my rebounding, and I do this with my kids. And a lot of times I get, teenagers, they'll give me the eye rolls. But the whole I am statements,
Mhm.
and they're so powerful.
Yes.
And I'm big about the subconscious. I don't know if you've ever listened to Bruce Lipton or Joe Dispenza. They
Sure. Of
talk about
course.
all that. And I think that right there is part of, my healing is I visually think about myself being 100 years old and holding my grandkids and my great grandkids, all these things, and being active and being
Right.
healthy. I think that is really key in regards to my emotional health. And I also will not say, and some people don't get it. I hear a lot of people F cancer, part of my language, and I'm like, I send love and light to my cancer.
You can say that. You can say that because you had a double mistake. You
Okay.
can definitely say that. Nobody's going to say anything about that.
But I don't have that attitude. Like, I
Right.
really come from a space of, you know what, I've said this and people think I'm crazy. I'm like, my cancer was a blessing, Dan. It really was, because I've now changed my outlook on life. I've now impacted having two girls, and just the thousands of people's lives that I have now changed. Is it a blessing? Absolutely. I mean, it really has. Um, and I just
Right.
think that's part of my, my morning routine is really important. Am I neurotic about it? No. Like, I get outside, I do grounding, I get out in the early morning sun. In the wintertime, I know my neighbors probably think I'm crazy because I do about the cold adaptation. I'm
hmm
out there in my tank top, and I hate being cold, but I also know what it's doing for my body.
You live in Minnesota, or you live in the Midwest, and you don't like the cold.
I don't, but you know what? I love winter activities and I love the season, so I put up with it.
Right.
But yeah,
And
I just think it's key to have something. Like, I'm a big about gratitude. I'm writing in my journal. I'm big
mhm.
about, my relationship. I'm a Christian. I'm big about that. I tell people you have to have that spiritual side of
There
you
is
as well.
right. You have to have a spiritual side, and I've heard multiple friends of mine have said to me, and I had a friend of mine on the podcast a couple of months ago or so, and he said the same thing as you. I find this fascinating. His cancer saved his life, and his cancer is a blessing, because he found it's the silver linings. He
Mhm.
found what he wanted to do with his life. It saved him from death, if you will, he said.
Yeah.
And I find that incredible, because you're confronted. Now you have to pivot. Tell me a little bit about what went through your mind when you were pivoting and trying to find those silver linings.
Well, at first I mean, it's only natural. I was like, why me at first? Two
Right.
tumors, the week before we were supposed to be moving from, Chicago to Atlanta. And I'm like, what? My family, we had been through enough. And I'm like, why? Why is this happening? And then I also was like, I need to switch. Instead of being the victim in this, what can I do? What can be the solution? And I started looking for the solution for things and realizing, all right, if I need to heal my body, I need to become a student. And so I watched Chris Carr, her documentary. I started diving into that, truly like looking for positive ways to make a difference. And I went to the social worker at the hospital and said, listen, you know what? There's got to be other people like me that want to have a better life, that they want to live. Like, I have so much hope. I mean, I have two little kids at home. I have a husband.
Right.
And I think that's the biggest thing, is having hope, Dan. Like,
Right.
doctors will take that away from you. And I said to someone, I'm like, they don't know when you expire. So there's a great book that's out there that I absolutely highly recommend to everyone, cancer or not. It's called Radical Remission. And the woman starts to interview all these late stage cancer survivors throughout the world, and they are now still all thriving. And what it was, the 9 things that these people are started to do, what did they have in common? And I'm now, I've become friends with some of these people and talked to them, and it was all taking control of their life and taking ownership. And that was me. I was like, all right, I need to own up. I need to own up and figure this out,
Right. So,
I'm not just going to blame the doctors or just lay back and just be like, oh, this is what my life's supposed to be like. No, I'm going to take charge.
so you're talking about being your own advocate for health, right? And
Mm-hmm.
that's important. Do you remember some of the specifics of those 9?
So obviously diet, exercise,
Mm-hmm.
spirituality,
Mm-hmm.
the emotions, all the things that you and I are talking about.
Right.
It's those things that we need to, and like the one person, I love it. She turned to laughter, and she now has it's like 1-800 joke on cancer or something like that. And so people can turn to that, and laughter is, one of the best medicines. I mean, I strive to laugh. Like, I laugh at myself. My kids laugh at me because I always think I'm funny. But I was
Right.
like, how can you not have
Right.
that joy within you? And it's that inner joy too. And
Yes.
making amends with people and not holding grudges. But that goes back to that, the attitude is, gratitude is my attitude. And I think that is really key, because if you count your blessings, you can't be counting every woe is me.
Right. Very important. Being your advocate, finding out, it became a study for you, right? It became a study for you where you were, you were looking for those answers. And, you find this in the functional medicine, clinical nutrition, lifestyle change, because what we say is we're looking for the root cause, right?
Yeah.
Right? Because putting a Band-Aid on something it's going to come back. So if you're eating that hamburger that you have, if you decided to put a little ketchup on that and just put some pickles on it, maybe a little bit of onions, and it tastes good, a little salt, and whatever else you want to put on there, you don't want to do that. And you don't want to put a Band-Aid on, when you're working as a certified wellness consultant, what do you do when you're looking for root causes in health issues?
A lot of it is also, I really address the emotional. I talk a lot about the emotions because I will find most of it's emotional doings. Is people aren't addressing something that's happening in their life,
Mm-hmm.
And then we'll start there. And then we obviously are looking at what is their lifestyle like, and then their history. And if they start saying, well, I've always been having these issues, and then you start to look at the medications. Okay, well, if you're taking some of these medications,
Mm-hmm.
that is also irritating your gut lining. And then you start to just go down that whole rabbit hole. And then my whole thing is I love turning people over to get testing done, like what you guys do, Dan. I think that's really important for people to truly understand what is happening. But if you can start to look at your food, what are you putting in your body, and creating that awareness. And I will tell people, one of the biggest awareness is, what are you drinking first thing in the morning? What are you reaching for? And most people are reaching for a cup of coffee before they have
with creamer, with
sugar.
With sugar. They're not having an alkaline type of a drink, perhaps like some fresh water and some lemon in there. That's the first thing that I do every single day.
And so that is like, I will start from those things. And a lot of times I'll create more healthy habits, habit layering. Like, all right. And I think because we have all or nothing mindset, and I think sometimes that will happen with people. They'll be like, oh, well, I have all this, collagen or supplementations. And I'll be like, all right, well, then you know what? Just aim for having it 3 times a week or whatever you might be doing, or creating a new habit.
Right.
People will say, well, I forget to take this. Well, do you forget to brush your teeth? Do you forget to grab that cup of coffee? No. Well, then put it there, and it's going to become a habit. Creating healthy habits for yourself. But the water thing, it kills me how much people don't drink water.
At all.
Yeah.
At all. Because I can, back when I was 37, when I had the cardiac event, there was no water. And here I am, a healthcare provider, Naomi. And it was really, I felt horrible for myself. You had what you have to deal with what events you have, right, in life. But now it's like, I'm a healthcare provider, and I'm supposed to teach individuals. And, as I was saying to you, I mean, coming out of one office in New Jersey, going into New York, I had 3 dirty water dogs and a can of Coke. There was that cola drink, and it was every Friday because I would go on the Belt Parkway. It was right there, right by the riding academy. And I remember missing one day, and I said, oh, I'm sorry. He goes, don't worry about it. I sold them. All I did is I walked up, and he had them right there. There could be a line. I just put the $1 or whatever. I think it was $1 back then, because it was, well, yeah, it was in another century when I and this was going on, I guess. And it was just so easy to do, and you're talking about advertising, because you get up and you get that cup of coffee going, because that's what we're supposed to do. So that's why we're here to motivate, educate, and inspire individuals to a totally different lifestyle. The testing is important, finding about inflammatory processes, what foods are creating the inflammation, what foods aren't creating the inflammation, and so forth. So it is extremely important. And then that leads us into like cellular stress, right? So let's discuss that. Tell us about cellular stress.
So I really didn't know what that meant, Dan, until I finished my 4 rounds of chemo. I was in there with my oncologist, and I said, what's next? What do I have to be concerned about? Because that's my biggest complaint in regards to what happens with people, is they go through all this, and it's pretty much like, all right, go on with your life, and not given any directions. And so I was like, what do I need to look out for? And he told me this term, and it was the first time I had heard this term. And because of who I am, I started digging and researching. He said, high levels of oxidative stress. And I was like, well, what's that? He's like, it's cellular stress. And I was like, well, what do I need to do about it? He said, don't get stressed, eat more broccoli and broccoli sprouts, and practice yoga. And that was pretty much what he had for me. Well, now looking back, it's because at the time there wasn't like a pill just to send and like a pharmaceutical. And so I started learning about what is oxidative stress and how it's breaking down the free radicals in our body, and really starting to address that and looking at, oh, we have our own antioxidant enzymes in our body. Like, so then I started to look at, what is glutathione? And now, right
Oh,
now,
yes.
that is like a hot topic that's out there because of everything going on. But I don't think people realize that we make our own antioxidants. Like,
That's
that's
right.
really cool. Like, but as we age with everything, everything starts to decrease. So what is it that we need to do to increase these? And so that's where I just started diving in deep in regards to learning about all these different things can have stress on our body. The air we're breathing, the cell phones that we're holding because of the EMFs. You know, people are now
You're right.
thinking, oh, I'm drinking water, but you're drinking water that's probably either not, it could be full of fluorides,
Right.
or sitting around in a plastic water bottle, you know, that's leaching out basically estrogens because it's mimicking estrogen in your body. So it's like being aware of these things. You know, I'm big about then what am I going to do? Like, I don't want people to say, well, I can't live under a rock and, you know, or live in this bubble. I'm like, yeah, but you know what? You can educate yourself and create awareness. And
Right.
I
I
think
think,
that's the biggest thing is creating awareness. Like, oh,
yes.
well, if I have a choice, you know what? I'm going to bring my own water bottle and I'm going to fill it up.
I think that's important because the oxidative stress causes the inflammatory process. It's
Mm-hmm.
creating these free radicals. Mental and emotional stress can create these free radicals. This
Yeah.
is what we're talking about.
Exercise, too much of it.
Too much exercise can create. That's when I'm dealing, anyway, when I'm dealing with athletes, I'm making sure they have a nice nutrition shake with some different types of supplements after, a long workout because, that, gets rid of those free radicals. So
Yeah.
emotional stress, mental stress, in my office, so many people are eating, pizza made with vegetable oil, or they have vegetable oils and corn oils that they're using for salads, and they're cooking that way. And high temperatures when you're cooking with a vegetable oil, it creates a rancid oil, which is extremely important. I mean, who smokes cigarettes anymore today, right? Who does that? I mean, that is just incredible. I remember my chemistry teacher well, I won't say what year it was when I was in college. They were like, I don't know if it was true, but it was like 10,800 carcinogenic chemical reactions when you're smoking, a cigarette. Chronic, psychological stress, environmental toxins, are really a major problem because the
Oh,
environment is becoming more and more, toxic every single day. I recommend a detox cleanse, and it's not one of those juicy thingies, right? Because that's
yeah.
what everybody thinks of when they think of a detox cleanse. But it gets rid of those toxins in your body, right?
Well, and that's why also like the fasting is key.
Yes.
And learning about those things because we have to help our bodies. We just cannot sit back anymore, Dan, and just be like, oh, it is what it is, because the environment it's breaking down faster and faster.
Mm-hmm.
And there's no doubt. And we saw it actually. What I found is so fascinating is when this whole pandemic broke out and people weren't driving around, and all of a sudden now you've seen nature come back to life again. And right then I was like, see, I mean, we're supposed to be living in harmony, but we're not. And
Right.
it's going to affect somewhere, and it's affecting our bodies.
So you and I were talking about this offline, and one of the silver linings, because we're looking at silver linings here today also, coming out of COVID, is those individuals that have these chronic lifestyle diseases, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, the diabetes, the cardiovascular disease, the hypertension, right? That's important now to start. I mean, this is a wake-up call. Let's take care of ourselves, because those in the Northeast, they are the ones that are having really bad outcomes here when they have that, right?
Yeah. Well, and that's just it. We're not addressing the things that needed to be addressed.
That was my point, right? We're not looking at what we should be looking at.
Yes. And that's the whole thing is people need to wake up and realize, all right, I need to be eating healthier, and learning about like what a soda is doing to your body and creating that inflammation. And I think that's where so many people in our circles get really upset in regards to like, they're just saying, wear masks 6 feet apart, wash your hands. Yet, where is the information in regards to, hey, guess what? Let's get outside, get grounded, like physically grounding on the ground, right, getting that vitamin D from the sunshine.
Right.
In those things. And then talking about, guess what? We also are so deficient in magnesium and all these important minerals in our bodies that are needed for the cells to work properly. And the
right,
mitochondria, like right there, people are so tired, Dan, and everything else. Well, let's address these things. What can we be doing?
Right. Yeah, I mean, that's just so important, and it is one of those situations that that I'm very, passionate about this right now, because we're looking at the COVID and we're looking at all of this, and we're looking at we're looking at everything, and we're saying we need to be healthier,
Mm-hmm.
as a nation and as individuals, because there's it's just horrible what's happening. And let's beat these viruses, and let's have a stronger immune system, from what you were saying before. I think that's extremely important, because if we don't have that, I don't like those chronic lifestyle diseases. You don't, and I don't. We've been through too much with that. It is a very scary type of a situation.
Well, and I think the whole thing is people will say, oh, some of these people that were healthy died. Well, were they really healthy? I mean, just
Right.
like for myself, people would have said, I don't get it. You were healthy. How did you get cancer? Well, was I really, truly healthy? No. I mean, let's be realistic. No, I wasn't healthy.
Right.
And I think that's the whole thing, is if you really would examine some of these people's lives, people are dehydrated. I mean, people are not getting the nutrition. They're not getting the fiber. They're not doing these things. People are eating stuff that's creating more inflammation in our body.
Yeah, and I think that's the important point. When you're looking at root cause, you're looking at inflammatory processes that can create all of these, can create havoc with our physiology and with our biochemistry. Now, tell me, what is the vitamin C party?
Oh, so
tell me about the vitamin C. We're coming up on our hour. We can go for a lot more, and we're going to have you back on. There's just so much more to talk about. So tell me about the vitamin C party.
So how it came about was my girlfriend and I I wanted to celebrate my anniversary of my diagnosis. And I know people think I'm crazy, but I didn't want to just move on with that day. And so I said to my girlfriend, I said, let's have a party. Let's do something. Let's get some people. And we were both at a conference, and one of the doctors at the conference had said, people need more vitamin C. And he had said, that was community and stuff. And I was like, man, that's what we need. We have all these amazing women in our lives, but I don't know them. I really don't know them. What's making them thrive? And I'm big, and I am the best person when it comes down. My zone of genius is connecting people. I love to watch people thrive. And so I had people around my kitchen island, which I thought would just be like a morning coffee. It ended up people were there until they're like, I gotta go. I gotta get my kids off the school bus.
Right.
And I realized people were craving this conversation, these communities. And so I started working with, my business coach, and she was like, why aren't you doing this on a bigger scale? Why aren't you doing this? And now it's like one of these things I'm actually revisiting and doing some stuff. During the pandemic, it switched because I was doing everything in person, and then I switched to online, and then I've taken a break just to be with my family during all of this. But I'm revisiting it all because I realize what people want is that connection. Right. And I really want people to learn to collaborate. And I see this all the time. People will say, oh yeah, I'm here to collaborate. I'm here. And they're not. It's a one-way street. And I'm like thinking to myself, there's so much abundance that's out there. just like, you know, you can be a chiropractor and so next to you can be a chiropractor. And guess what? You both are going to have two different gifts. So why not collaborate? Why not encourage each other to really up level together as a society? And that is my thing. I've done so much personal development work that I feel as though, why wouldn't I want to share this information? And my biggest thing is take what you need, leave the rest. Because everything I share with you or you share with me, it might not apply to my life right now, but I'm going to take what you tell me, Dan, and I'm going to apply that part.
Right.
And leave the rest. I don't need the rest. But guess what? It's a ripple effect too. And so with my parties, I want people to have that good dose of vitamin C, that good conversation, that good community.
I love that. I love that.
And what if we had more of that? I mean, that is the supplementation I think that we need. I mean,
I agree.
that whole isolation thing, like they say it's worse than smoking cigarettes. And I truly believe that. That's why people join. You think about it. Why do people go to bars? You could be drinking at home.
Right. It's the social aspect of it. Yeah. And you're having the conversation community, you know, you can have that local neighborhood, you know, tavern where everybody goes to on a Friday night, you know, after work and it feels good. It feels good, right? You know, there's always that connection that goes on. Now, tell me about the Licorice Project.
So the Licorice Project is a nonprofit that I'm a part of. I serve on the board. And it was actually when I was diagnosed at the beginning, when I was reaching out to the social worker, she said, there's two sisters that have started this. They're like, you need to connect. And as soon as I connected with them, Katie and Kendra, I was like, oh my word, this is what I want to do. Like, I want to have a community of women that have walked in our path, but not being so much just that typical cancer survivor groups, but it was sort of the unexpected treat. And so that is sort of what our nonprofit has done. It really has been still focused in Chicago. We now have a closed Facebook group, but it's great. It's really, truly connecting women together that have gone on this journey. And it's a great avenue to be able to be a part of, just to help other people.
Yeah, it's another community. It's another connection. It's just another conversation that you're having, right? Yeah. So I think this is great. I mean, your passion, you know, and your knowledge just comes right through. It's just so great, you know, to have that, right?
Oh, I mean, I'm so blessed. I feel as though I'm so blessed because I continue to meet amazing people like yourself, Dan. You know,
thank you. You're the amazing. You are definitively the amazing one. You are definitely inspirational and motivational. There's no doubt about that. So it's just fabulous meeting you. And that's why I love doing podcasts. I get to meet, you know, incredible people such as yourself.
Well, likewise, it's been fun.
Yeah. So how can individuals, you know, if they want to contact you for wellness consulting and so forth, how can they contact you?
You know, I'm big on social media. So people find me on Instagram. They find me on my Facebook page, just my name, Naomi, you know, Damask. And then I also do have a website, which is ohmyword.net.
ohmyword.net. I want everybody to contact Naomi. You know, she's a wonderful individual. See what she has to offer, you know, and then partake in what she has to offer. It's just fabulous. I love it. Do you have any other parting comments that you want to say before we get off air here? Is there anything else on your mind?
Basically, just reminding people to give themselves self-exams, because I think that is really key. And just being in tune with your body, like really, truly come from a place of love, loving your body. And I think that is the best thing, because we are all amazing human beings. And if you need a friend to talk to, I am definitely here.
And I can tell you, I've spoken to Naomi. She is a good friend. I can tell you that. So I want to thank everybody for being here today. Naomi, thank you so much. Blessed meeting you. It's just incredible, you know, friendship developing. I look forward to our friendship. I look forward to, you know, collaborations and future podcasts. Thank you very much for being on.
Well, thank you for having me. And I'm looking forward to connecting with your listeners.
So everybody, all my listeners, please contact Naomi. Thank you very much for listening. Go to YouTube, Suburban Wellness Group, and subscribe so you don't miss an episode, so that you get to hear incredible people such as Naomi. Thank you very much, and we will see you again soon. Take care now. Bye-bye.
Thanks.